We continue our combine coverage by breaking down who you need to watch out for on day 3 next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
I'm going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe if you love the draft as much as all of us out there. And also, rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. Welcome back, everybody. More draft combine coverage. If you haven't already, check out the other shows as well as we start just breaking down 50 players in 4 days. So even though we're going to try and cover just 10 people, I always like to go over, always like to just cover a little bit more. So today, we're breaking down quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. They're all going to play out there Saturday, March 1st. You can catch it on NFL Network 12 to 8. Definitely suggest it because it's going to be a blast. So as we go through just who to watch out for, one thing that I'll just say, no quarterbacks made my top 10 because my quarterbacks just, we already have some quarterbacks out there. We have Caleb Williams, we have Tyson Bagent, but still you get to watch the quarterbacks at least because they're going to be throwing out to the wide receivers. So you're just naturally going to see them throwing the ball. So with this, I wanted to just really start at the running back position because you know that we might be adding another running back alongside Swift. So let's start out with someone who we need to watch out for. And number one for me is Bhayshul Tuten. Bhayshul Tuten out of Virginia Tech, 5'11". I think he's probably going to be a little bit shorter, maybe like 5'9" or so. Maybe he'll measure in at 209. All you got to know, and this is the reason why I'm watching him at the combine. He's going to run fast. He's going to run really, really fast. This guy ran over 23 miles per hour last season. This guy is blazing fast, hits the hole with just absolute conviction, and just breaks tackles too, 143 elusive rating. And that's why I think he's just going to blow up the combine when it comes down to the pure speed. Reminds me of that Raheem Mostert type where, yet again, 49er running back. Insert whatever 49er running back you have. This guy just finds the hole and just bursts through it. Now, speaking of that, I do think that his vision is a little bit weak. That's my biggest fear with him when you start comparing him to other running backs because his highlight films are fun, but just his normal game tape isn't as great as you'd like. Also, not a great receiver, so I want to see him in some of the drills when he's catching the ball. Does he look natural when the ball's being thrown out to him? But also, too, high fumble rate. Not really going to see that at the scouting combine, but he's definitely someone because, like I've always said, if you've listened to our other shows about the scouting combine, I don't really like to look at the numbers until afterwards. Like, they're fun. They try to make the 40 time like the pinnacle, the main event of the whole thing. But really, for me, the thing you should be watching out for is how they look in the drills alongside other people. And I just feel like Tuten, he's going to be someone that is going to be absolutely like explosive and the numbers are going to be there, but he's going to be fun to watch. And he's someone that is projected to go in rounds 4 to 5. So when we're looking at running backs, this is a speedy, explosive running back that I really, really, really enjoyed watching. But the next is another person that I'm higher on than consensus by a pretty big margin. And that's Trevor Etienne, the running back out of Georgia. And Trevor Etienne, yes, the brother of the other Etienne, but he is 5'9", 205. So he's more of that DeAndre Swift type of size. And that's his biggest question is this guy going to be a lead running back in the NFL? Because at Georgia, they always have a running back by committee approach. And quite frankly, Etienne, when you see him get the ball, he just flies. He just has NFL quickness, NFL speed, NFL vision. And that's why I kind of pause and I go, well, what doesn't he have? Because he's also a good receiver. And that's where during the combine, I think he's going to be running some very, very nice routes out there. He's been targeted 63 total times in his career, and he's caught 62 out of those total passes. So only one incompletion when the guy's targeted. Efficient route runner. He can run it really well, but also I think he's going to show out when he's out there on the field. He's going to look good on the field drills. But the big questions too, right? There's the other side of the combine. I think that teams are going to be asking him, hey, what was the whole DUI in 2024? Also, your yards per carry has gone down every single season. He started out at 6.1 as a freshman. And now next season, it was like in the mid 5.3 or so. And then this year, 4.9. So every single season, his yards per carry has been steadily declining. And that's why that's why he's number 211 on the consensus big board. That's why not a lot of people are super high on him because of that. Because what else is he? And is there any other extra baggage that we have to worry about? So to me, I really like Trevor Etienne. I think he's going to show out. I think he's going to be someone fun to watch and someone that you can get easily in day 3. So I don't get why he's just consistently back end round 6, round 7. But heck, if you can get a player like that, you'll see at the combine, man, this guy's just a fluid mover and just a good player overall. So now, like every single episode, if you've watched us go through the scouting combine or just other episodes, I always like to kind of bend the rules a little bit. And I am with my number 3 pick. So my number 3 pick of people to watch or person to watch out for is the big boys. So what I mean by this is the big boy running backs, because there's about 4 of these guys that just really need good 40 times just to kind of show hey, we can actually have some good long speed. Now, yet again, this doesn't change absolutely everything, but it's still something that can be a big time concern, because the 4 people I'm looking out for is Kaleb Johnson, who's projected to go in the 2nd round out of Iowa. Also, Kyle Monangai out of Rutgers. This guy, okay, if you're watching this right now, open up a new tab, search Kyle Monangai Rutgers. You can just mute that tab, watch the rest of this show, enjoy some Kyle Monangai highlights. He is he is a fierce runner, someone that's projected to go day 3. Absolutely love this guy on tape. But yet again, questions about his long speed. And quite frankly, out of these 4 that we'll go through, I feel like he's the fastest one. Next one is Tahj Brooks out of Texas Tech. And then also Cam Skattebo out of Arizona State. Now, Cam Skattebo is someone that I feel a lot of us know just because of the college football playoffs, where this guy just made people miss. He's a very lateral speed type of guy, but not a long speed type of guy. I don't expect a good 40 time out of him. And quite frankly, I'm a little bit lower on him than consensus because I think he's good, but I don't think he's people are projecting him in the 2nd round where I'm that's a little rich for me. That, yet again, this is the draft. We all have different opinions. I just don't see that out of him for the long speed. So I'm really excited to see him going with other people to see just how does his quickness, his speed, his agility match up with everyone else. And same thing with Kaleb Johnson. When the ball's in his hand at Iowa, when he's out there, he's just plowing people over. He's just running through tackles. And yeah, you want to see the long speed. You want to see the quickness. You want to see the athleticism. And so that's why those 4 players are all people that are just on my overall list of how do they look compared to other people. Because Tahj Brooks out of Texas Tech, good player, but kind of reminds me a little bit more of the Mike Tolberts of the world, where kind of that pseudo fullback, running back type of a role where he can just kind of plow through people, but he's larger. So all these guys, how do they look next to other running backs? Do they look out of place? Do they look good? So all those questions, that's stuff that I'm really looking forward to going through inside of the scouting combine. So next, I'm cheating a little bit more. This is my second to last time that I will do something like this. But the only other running backs that I'm kind of looking out for are just generally who I'm calling the best running backs that are out there. And that is Ashton Jeanty, and then also Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina, Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. I think we all know Ashton Jeanty. He's arguably the best running back out of the draft, or easily the best running back coming out in the draft. And Omarion Hampton, I feel, is getting a little slept on. Now, the reason why I want us to at least keep an eye out for them is that even though a lot of people don't want to draft a running back, I don't think it's an absolute no-brainer that they're not going to, because we've seen Ben Johnson coming from the Lions that drafted a running back high. And if this prospect is better than what Jahmyr Gibbs was coming out. So would Would this be someone that the Bears end up targeting? I think that there's at least still a chance if he's good enough. So look for Ashton, Jeanty, Omarion, Hampton. Do they run differently? Do they seem different as their kind of like their quickness, their speed? Those are just people that at least just keep an eye out for. Like I personally would look at the other people, but it's easy. As soon as you hear Ashton, Jeanty, guarantee you all cameras are going to be on them. So you just are not going to be able to miss them. So those are my running backs. There's a lot of other ones that I wanted to go through. RJ Harvey out of UCF is one that comes to mind. But as you already know, we're already going through more than 10 already that we have out here. But with the running backs, let me know. Is there anyone that you missed? In the comments. But let's go through wide receivers, where there's a lot of good wideouts. And quite frankly, every season, I feel like we can just kind of copy and paste player profiles for different people. And the wide receivers are no exception. Like literally going through the wide receivers, I go, I can just copy this guy's profile. I can just copy this guy's. Like I don't actually, but it's like this is just like a carbon copy of these other players that are out there. And I'm going to start with Xavier Restrepo. He's the slot only wide receiver out of Miami. And this guy reminds me of Ricky Pearsall, 5'10", 198. So he's got some beef to him, but he is only 5'10", so a little bit shorter. Like I said, he's only a slot player. And the big question, just like with Ricky Pearsall, what about his deep speed? Now, Ricky Pearsall came out last year and just absolutely dominated the combine. I don't think Restrepo is going to do that from a 40 time. I think he's going to run in the 4.5s. That's kind of my guess. If he's in the 4.4s, then holy crap. I just don't really see that long speed with him. But man, this guy's got quickness. I think when you see him running routes, like I always like watching this with my dad. I think when we see this, he's just going to go, man, that guy's quick. That guy just gets open because that's what he does. He's a short yardage specialist, like just quick little slants, quick little drag routes, things like that. The dude just gets open. He's a high floor player that I would love to see the Bears get in the third round. Right now, he's the consensus number 73 player overall. I kind of hope it stays that way so that the Bears can nab him because he just seems like a plug and play slot player day one and just someone that's going to give you some good production. So my whole question with that, I think he's going to look great in the drills. I just want to see what his long speed looks like when he's playing out there, or like what is his actual official long speed numbers, because just like with Pearsall, he really kind of turned some heads with that. So is Restrepo going to do that because he's this slot only guy? But let's go into someone else so Restrepo I'm really high on compared to consensus. I think that he's more of a second round type of a prospect. And then next is Elic Ayomanor. And he is out of Stanford, and I'm a little bit lower than the consensus. And actually, I've seen more and more people moving this guy out of Stanford up on their boards. He's 6'2", 210. And the reason why I'm lower than consensus on him is I just didn't see separation. He reminds me of like the Cedric Tillmans of the world and players like that have kind of come out where they just simply don't create the separation that they normally do, that you would expect. And also, too, this guy's supposed to be a crazy good athlete. Supposedly, he's going to run a 4.4 or a 4.3. On tape, I just did not see that. I thought he was a slow mover. I thought he was a little bit clumsy. I want to also see how he runs. Is he a long strider? Because that's what I was seeing. I just was not seeing fluid movement. And that's the best part about the draft. We have disagreements and other things like that. If you're an Elic fan, let me know down in the comments, right? And what do you like about him? Because I'm not seeing that. I think that he's still okay, but I just don't see this whole like second round, early second, late first type of hype that he's starting to get. And who knows? Maybe he's just going to ball out, like they said, a 4.3 or something like that, where all of a sudden people are like, man, this guy is crazy. But also, too, I just don't like that most of his snaps, slants, deep balls. I do think that there's something to be said about people that can run a full route tree. So I'm at least keeping an eye out for him just because I'm lower than a lot lower than consensus on him. So I just want to see, hey, what am I missing with a prospect like this? But someone that I like a lot more than consensus is Jayden Higgins out of Iowa State. This is the next guy on my list. He's overall 72 on the consensus big board, wide receiver number 9. And man, out of Iowa State, 6'4", 215, See, this is who I think people think Elic is out of Stanford, where he's just this big dude. And like, I see Kenny Galladay comps out there, and I feel like there's going to be a better one that comes out, but it does remind me of like good Kenny Galladay, not bad Kenny Galladay. But when Kenny Galladay was a good possession receiver, I think Higgins is faster though. I think that Higgins could get a pretty good 40 time to show, hey, I'm not Kenny Galladay. I'm not going to run a 4.6 40. I'm going to run a 4.4 or a 4.5. That's what I'm hoping that he ends up running. I also just want to see how he fluidly moves out there inside of the drills, side to side with other people. I think he's going to look darn good. And I really enjoy him. I hope he stays as a projected third round player, because he's someone that I just simply feel like he just screams second rounder. And like, he's just so good. He's like I would actually give him an early second round grade. Like, to me, Elic and Jayden Higgins should be flipped, because Higgins just seems like the type of guy that you want on your team. Someone that also did very well in the Senior Bowl and during the game and inside of the practice. You saw that he was someone that people consistently were going to. So next, this is the last little cheeky thing I'm going to do when it comes to players, because, hey, I want to give you all more prospects to watch out for. And this is the TCU wide receivers, because these TCU wide receivers you are going to hear about. One, because of his story, and the second one, because he's just a crazy, crazy athlete. So number one, this is the carbon copy. I didn't actually copy this, but I could have. But if you just think about every single draft profile you've ever heard about Quentin Johnston, Cordero Patterson, Laviska Shenault, Bayless Jones, right? This is Savion Williams, the wide receiver out of TCU, 6'5", 225. Obviously, being 6'5", a lot bigger than some of those players as well. But this guy's he's the playmaker. He is the playmaker of the bunch, and also just not a natural receiver, right? He's got 60 receptions, 611 yards, 6 touchdowns, 11.8% drop rate, 88.9% contested catch. That might just be because it's a very, very small sample size. Really, it's focusing on that drop rate almost being 12%. The guy just doesn't have natural hands. He's body catching. He's doing double catches. He's just not a natural wide receiver. But this guy, even though he had a limited route tree, played everywhere on the field, played running back, played, just literally everywhere. They were just trying to get him the ball, because all this negative stuff to just say this guy is a really good playmaker, really good athlete, and that's why he's probably going to blow up the combine. He's going to be someone that runs a 4.3 40 time, and people are going to say he's like 6, he's 220 pounds or so, and he's doing something like that. That's why I think he's going to be just like, you're going to hear the hype train on Savion Williams. Also another piece about him too. Like 6'5", 225. But yeah, he's also number 12 wide receiver, consensus wide receiver number 12, and consensus 75th player on the big board. So right now projected to go in that third round range. I think if he has an absolute crazy combine, which I expect him to, I see people kind of going, hey, maybe I will take this guy in the second round, even though that when you typically see that profile, it just doesn't really pan out for them, because wide receiver is about running routes. It's not just about getting open and other things like that. I will say, though, I do like him a little bit more than some of the other players like Laviska Shenault. I really wasn't that high on, or even like Quentin Johnston. I think I think Savion Williams might be a slightly better receiver, but still, you're talking apples and apples type of thing. Very, very, very similar types of players. So let's go on to the next TCU wide receiver who is going to get the headlines because of his crazy story. Because unfortunately, you might have already heard this. So Jack Bech, TCU wide receiver, senior, 6'2", 215. His brother Tiger unfortunately passed away at the New Orleans shooting on New Year's Eve, or on New Year's. So unfortunately, we're gonna hear about that. They're gonna talk about that because it's a powerful story. He comes out there in the Senior Bowl, becomes the MVP, makes the winning catch. Just crazy. So he's not just a story, though. I want to just make that clear, because I was watching Savion Williams, because Savion Williams was supposed to be the person that was the guy. Like, that's the receiver to watch out for. I got to tell you all this. putting on Jack Bech's film, this guy is really good. Like, really, really good. He's a 1-year starter, so that's probably the biggest weakness, right? Like, why did it take you all that time to become a starter? But when he was out there, the dude just simply caught everything. Any ball that was thrown his way, he just came down. I should have actually had the number of catches compared to targets. Like, it just felt any time that they threw the ball to him, he just has a nose for the ball. He's going out there, he's catching the ball. Like, it seems like this is his last play. Like, he's not going to play football ever again. And he's just playing every single, like, just the fire that he plays with. He's also a great blocker. His teammates loved him, like, absolutely loved him. And he's played in the slot, he's played outside, and he's also broken the same amount of one less tackle than Savion Williams, who's the big time playmaker. He can break tackles, he can run routes, he can do it all. So why am I looking out for him? Because for one, I just want to see, yet again, him going against other wide receivers, back to back to back. How does he look? But also, too, he has a question on that long speed. So what is going to be his 40 time? I think he's got good speed, but I'm hoping that he has some sort of surprising extra little gear that he can kind of show out for us. And my comp for him, I threw Michael Wilson because when Michael Wilson was coming out, like, he was this person that was down on a lot of people's boards and then was just flying up draft boards. Because when you see him play, you just go, this guy can be like a number 2 wide receiver, just a number 2 outside wide receiver. But Bech can also play on the inside, even at that 6'2" frame, 215. So he's got some weight on him. His tape is, he's really good. he's a really good wide receiver. That is someone that could go in that I do expect him to go in the second. When I saw all the hype for him, I was like, that guy. And then you put it on the tape, you go, okay, I get it. I get it. He's really good. He's really, really, really good. So I'm really excited to watch Jack Bech out of TCU. But now we have our final 2, and they're very, very similar players. They're players that we've talked about before. These are my Ben Johnson guys. Like, if Ben Johnson and Antoine Randall, if Randall want to get that Jameson Williams type of a player, these guys have to show out because these are also smaller players. So to start things off, we're going to start off with let me just grab this. It's not pulling up right now. So let me just nab this little graphic real quick. And first person on this list is going to be Isaiah Bond. And let me just move my face over here. People on the audio side will be like, what was going on with that? So Isaiah Bond is someone who I'm looking out for because Isaiah Bond is he's that explosive player. He moves different. And I think at the combine, you're really going to see this. I think Isaiah Bond is going to be going off in the agility drills. I think he's going to be going off in the agility drills, the speed drills, everything like that. And he also needs to. This is someone who did not have good production while at Texas. And also before, when he was at Alabama, did not have that good production. So he needs to look really good. He needs to look really fast because on tape, he is just an explosive athlete. And quite frankly, if he didn't run some of this stuff, I wouldn't blame him because he needs to show like, hey, I'm a really good player. I am a very, very good athlete, and his testing is more important, arguably, than anyone else's because of his lack of production. But the next person, my final person, number 10, kind of, is Tez Johnson, who Tez Johnson to me, out of Oregon, he's the type of player that, first off, I got to grab out my little browser thing again. There we go. So Tez Johnson, wide receiver out of Oregon, he's the guy that weighs in at around 165. So one of the lightest wide receivers that we'll see. He has to run well. Yet again, just like Isaiah Bond, are they going to be too afraid to run in front of other people? Or are they going to wait till their pro day? Because everybody runs faster at their pro day because the stopwatches end a little bit quicker than they do at the combine. So that's where, to me, Tez Johnson, he needs to run fast, and I really want to see him run some routes because Tez Johnson and Isaiah Bond are just big time players, fast players. Like I said, that's kind of the Jameson Williams type of comp where they're just the fast playmaking wide receivers that I feel the Bears might be very interested in. So let me know what you think down below. We have more scouting combine pieces. If you like this and you want to know more about the draft, make sure to stay tuned, like and subscribe if you're out there on YouTube. Also, if you're out there in podcast land, make sure to save, favorite, follow this podcast, rate it 5 stars, share it out with your friends, and stay tuned because we'll have you covered for the draft. And also we'll have a free draft guide that will be given out or sending out that you just have to have a link and you'll be able to access that. So with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and you